Welcome to Occupational Learning Module 3. And today we're going to be looking at how you maintain and adapt to oral communication. And here are the module outcomes that we're going to be looking at today. Firstly, we're going to be looking at how we use a variety of strategies to maintain communication, identify and explain how speakers influence audiences, the use of knowledge of language structures and conventions to shape or decode meaning of unfamiliar vocabulary or constructions, adapting your speech to accommodate cultural sensitivities without losing their own meaning, and then organizing and presenting information in a focused and a coherent manner. Maintaining and adapting of oral communication. Speech is our primary means of communication with each other. Perhaps it is because we use it naturally. We sometimes forget that these are skills attached to communication with others which can make our work as well as our social lives more meaningful. If we lack skill in this area, we are in danger of embarrassment and misunderstanding, and we can fail to actually understand others, and they can actually fail to understand us. Using a variety of strategies to maintain communication. Languages have certain features and conventions, such as the rules of grammar and punctuation, which can be manipulated and adapted to suit different contexts, audiences, and purposes. For example, of using formal language structures when communicating in a business context, as opposed to slang or colloquial language in informal communication. Ensuring the questions to obtain information and clarify meaning are appropriate to the context. One way to get information and understand meaning is by asking questions. As most people are not very good communicators, it is up to you to ask good questions, which will then get the questions you want or even the answers you want. Questions could include the who, what, when, where, why, and how questions. Sustain interaction through exchange with others. If someone comes to you with a problem or an idea, how can you get more information from him or her? You question the person to find out more detailed information. The best types of questions to use are this open-ended or probing questions. The use of intonation, tone, volume, pace, and rhythm, pitch, stress, repetition, and pacing in a manner that would support and convey your meaning. Your voice is very important in the world of business. In your case, you're communicating verbally with fellow staff and the public most of the time. It is important to give a good impression, so any extra skills you can gain in this area will make your presentation of yourself more professional by intonation, volume, pace, pitch, and rhythm. Ensuring the sustained interactions reflect on ability to discuss a series of events. Communication is often described as the art of speaking well, yet it is the art of listening well that is actually equally important for effective communication, and it is an art that is all too often neglected. Most people are much too fond of the sound of their own voices, drowning out any contribution from others. Listen well and ensure that you sustain the interaction by using prompts to keep the conversation flowing. Distinguishing the main ideas during interactions and supporting them. The main idea tells us what the message the person is trying to convey. The main idea, if stated, is often right at the beginning of the message and is emphasized by the way the person says it or repeats it. Recognizing interactions that are coherent and conclusions and opinions that are justified. When interacting with others, you will often find yourself in a situation where you need to, firstly, recognize a coherent argument. Now, to recognize a coherent argument, you would check if it makes sense on a fundamental level, justify conclusions. Conclusions are the summing up of an argument or a text. Justify opinions. Opinions are beliefs or ideas held with confidence but not substantiated by positive knowledge or by proof. Correct your own speech or adapting it to promote clarity and understanding during an interaction. Even though we communicate with people every day, we do not always adjust our communication style to the audience or situation at hand. This can lead to confusion, hurt feelings, or even misunderstandings. Please read pages 43 to 44 in your learner guide for further information on prompting of clarity of speech. Identify and explain how speakers influence audiences. Your choice of words, language usage, visual aids in tone and pace influence your audience to be more or less receptive to your message. If your listener has tons of questions about what you're saying, then you probably need to explain more. You need more detail, and you possibly need to elaborate more to the person that's asking the questions. Exploring and explaining speakers' choice of words, language, usage, symbols, pictures, and tone and pace. Sometimes it's not about the amount of explanation that matters, but the word choice and the tone that you adopt. Your word choice and tone need to match your audience's expectations. We have to be very careful that we strike a careful balance between coming across as patronizing and treating our audience as ignorant and giving just the right amount of information. Recognizing and explain speakers' omission or inclusion of pertinent facts and opinions. Sometimes people do not say something straight out as they get into trouble, so they might use a suggestion or an innuendo, or they leave out pertinent information. At other times, they arrange the information in such a way that they create a particular impression in a learner's or listener's mind. Identifying and evaluating the impact of different techniques of spoken communication. As you become more confident with speaking in public, you can employ more sophisticated techniques to influence your audience, such as rhetorical questions, the use of the first person inclusion, analogies, as well as a passive voice. Use of knowledge of language structures and conventions to shape or decode meanings of unfamiliar vocabulary or constructions. Words are symbols for ideas. These ideas formulate knowledge, and knowledge is gained largely through words. Use your knowledge of language structures and conventions to shape or decode the meaning of unfamiliar vocabulary or how the sentence was constructed. Learn to use the following effectively in your oral communication, like new words, borrowed words from other languages, as well as idioms. Identify new or borrowed words when listening. Identify new idioms, slang, acronyms, and technical terms appropriate in speaking. Our world is changing so quickly that we have to learn new terminology all the time in order to keep up. The use of dictionaries or in the online dictionaries are used all the time. The more up-to-date we actually are with the changing world of technology, the better we are at our jobs, as well as the way we communicate. Looking at the new words and constructing the meaning from a range of contextual clues, there will be times when you'll come across words which are confusing or even unfamiliar. Apart from looking up the word in a dictionary, there are other ways in finding the meaning of these words. You could try by breaking an unfamiliar word down into understandable words that is known as decoding skill. Decoding skills are also known as word attack skills. It is called word attack because you either ignore the word or guess its meaning. Supporting meaning in speaking by appropriate use of pause, intonation, pace, stress, and variety of sentence structures. We've seen earlier that you can support meaning when speaking by applying certain techniques, such as varying your pace, intonation, as well as emphasis or stress. That even pause can be important as the words that a speaker actually says. It would add emphasis as well as weight to a speech. Adapting to speech to accommodate cultural sensitivities without losing its meaning. Social composure consists of grace, charm, as well as etiquette. Being graceful in a meeting or social activity involves being comfortable in your surroundings. Knowing that you're appropriately dressed and are familiar with the customs and culture of your group would help you put at ease. Explaining the effects on combining of spoken word with visual features and body language. When we meet someone for the first time, we already have formed an opinion about us within the first few seconds, before we even open our mouths to speak. Our non-verbal communication is therefore just as important as the words that we actually use. The important elements of body talk that people usually focus on are eye contact, dress, posture, gestures, and movement, as well as facial expression. Using intonation, NMFs, appropriately to support intentions in spoken texts. When speaking or signing, the meaning you are trying to convey needs to be supported by the appropriate use of pause, intonation, or NFs, which means non-manual features. For example, facial grammar, as well as body movement, as well as your pace, stress, as well as a variety of sentence structures. Explain the impact of interaction of using appropriate or inappropriate forms of politeness. All human interactions are carried out within social, cultural contexts, which will carry codes that vary from the very informal to the most informal. Buying something from a roadside vendor is considered very informal, while being received by the president is considered to be very formal. All contexts must be interpreted according to the specific social and cultural norms. Expressing your own ideas and opinions in ways that reflect respect for others and sensitivity to social cultural differences. Within whatever norms are accepted by a culture, civility is shown others that you have consideration for them. Every human being, irrespective of who or she is, has the right to be respected. Kind words, a decent attitude towards a person, a friendly manner, these are some of the things that show another person the dignity and respect that they actually deserve. In fact, most of us are familiar with the idea of treating others as you wish to be treated. Please complete class activity 3 in your workbook. Organizing and presenting information in a focused and a coherent manner. If you get a clear picture of your audience before you prepare your speech, it will help to focus your planning so you can get your message across more effectively. The better the picture you have of your readers, the better you can direct your planning. Ask a few of the questions to actually get a clearer picture of your audience. For example, who are my audience? What do they really know about the subject? What do they actually need to know? Will they actually understand the technical terms? Ensure that the style and register will suit the purpose as well as your audience. Once you've determined who your audience is, you need to determine the style and the register that you will adopt. The questions you will need to answer is, how long have you been given to actually talk? And what is the purpose of the talk that you're going to be giving? Identify, locate, and select information appropriate to purpose, audience, and context. Only real experts can stand up and deliver a talk without preparation. And not even they would do this. You are showing that you do not respect your audience if you do not prepare. You will need to do research to make sure that your information is up to date. Identify, locate, and select information continued. Organize your information logically. Provide cues to help the listeners follow and also to find the information. Make the proportion of space you give to any information reflect the relative importance of that information. Choose your words precisely. Avoid wordy phrases. Use illustrative aids to promote understanding in the communication process. Visual aids are a key feature of interesting presentation. Guidelines for preparing effective slides could be, for example, the visibility. The lettering should be neat and the font size can be easy to read from a distance of at least 2 meters. Clarity. Label all elements of charts and graphs. Use color to emphasize and clarify key elements, but be sure to title each slide. Simplicity. Each slide should be limited to one point or comparisons. Presenting your own points of view and ideas coherently in prepared and unprepared talks. A formal talk, speech, or presentation has to be planned. Otherwise, it's going to be a disaster. It will not show you to your best advantage, and if you're representing an organization, it would have a negative impact on how people actually view the organization. Formulating conclusions, summarizing the main evidence against stating the own point of view. The conclusion may be the most important part of your presentation. It is the last part of the message the audience will actually hear. Choose your words carefully, but use your conclusion to seal your influence. Summarize the main points, and then signal the end with transition phrases. Please complete class activity 4 in your workbook. Thank you.